This is Fight Fans Radio.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Untethered MMA on Fight Fans Radio. It is March 28th, 2013. There's a myriad of ways of getting a hold of the show today. Hopefully, Matt Roth is currently freaking out in the chat because he can't somehow get into the Google Plus hangout here. If you want to call into the show, you can call us at 410-988-6525 if you're watching on Google. I'm sure there's some way you can get on the hangout. And of course, you can reach us on Twitter. You can reach me at It's Mike Fagan. You can reach Derek at Untethered Subo, a new Twitter handle we'll get to in a second here. And you can reach Matt Roth at Matt Roth 512, who currently can't hear or see shit.
It's early. We had people that weren't even with us on the original call join in last week. So try this link. It's the same one I just tweeted out. And I think that if you just click the box and say, okay, you should be good to sign up.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell Matt's doing.
Just make sure your webcam and shit is working before you get started, because that hangs me up sometimes.
Well, and it's not like you and I haven't done Google Hangouts with Matt before, because we have.
No, it's not unprecedented, man. Come on. Get your ass on here.
I believe the last time we did it was the fantasy football draft back in August.
Oh, man.
And he was
We're going to have to do that again this year. Fuck it. I hate Eli Manning so much. He screwed me so hard this year.
So, Derek, I alluded to it, the new Twitter handle, Untethered Subo, formerly Fight Linker Subo. Uh-oh.
No way.
Uh-oh. If you're not watching this on YouTube or live, you definitely
I have a Ninja Clava, so I could pull this off too, but I just have a little more respect for the audience and my craft.
You definitely need to check out the video if you get a chance, ladies and gentlemen. Just the first 5 minutes of this. Anyway, well, Matt, how are you doing? Before we get to Derek, how are you doing, Matt?
Yeah. If you don't say anything, the camera's never going to go to you, so you better say something, champ.
Is he muted? Is this mic muted?
It starts out muted. You got to click the red button. Our guest did this last time, too. Top right.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah! Same shit.
That's bullshit. It's a bunch of bullshit. Let's all be on Google Plus instead. Even though Skype's been working for a year. Fucking horse shit right here. Bullshit motherfuckers. We're in Lodi, bitch.
All right, so Derek, we talked about it at the top. New Twitter handle.
Now I gotta tell a sad. I don't want to tell a sad story and bring everyone down at the beginning of the show, but I'm no longer with Fight Linker. It was a cool 3 years. They pulled me off the ban pile when nobody wanted anything to do with me, so that was cool. I always like him for that. Ryan's still a good guy, but apparently I pissed on the wrong person. I pissed on Olympus. I spit in the wind. I stepped on Superman's cape. If you don't know the story, Brent Brookhouse committed an act of journalism this weekend. It was fucked up, and it ruined a lot of things, but he did it, and he knew what he was doing when he did it. Fuck you, Roth. Anyway, so he breaks the story, aided by a source that's close to Nick Lembo, that World Series of Fighting Cage hasn't been approved yet, that they've got to get this done in the next 20 hours, or else the card isn't going to happen because it's right before start time. First, Ariel's response to the story is, I don't know anything about it. I haven't heard anything about it. Next response is to go to Ali Dominance, Executive Vice President and Matchmaker for World Series of Fighting. Gets a boilerplate, everything's fine, everything's A-OK from him, re-reports that without an ounce of context or scrutiny. Brent's response to this is, LOL, I'm talking to Nick Lembo right now, and the head of the commission, the guy who actually gives the thumbs up or thumbs down, is saying it's right here, not here. Ariel's response to this is to say, quote, I'm sure you're right. No retweet, no shine form or anything like that. Next day, story finally comes out that, hey, it's finally been approved. Everything is now good to go, whereas it wasn't when Ali Dominance lied to Ariel the night before. And Ariel asked Nick Lembo, what was the problem? Keep in mind that Brent Brookhouse already covered all this the day before. And Nick Lembo tells him it was the canvas and the post pads. Those were the two issues. Ariel then asks him, how long has this ever happened before? How did they fix it? How close was the show to being canceled? Why not just give the reporter who broke the story the credit for it? Why try to reported so it was an intensely selfish and transparently egotistical thing to do. Now we're chopping up a little bit, but I'm still here.
Yeah, continue.
Matt's fucking dancing around too much. And
keep going.
Got a delay here, but the bottom line is that nobody has objected to the substance of what I said. Nobody has said that Ariel was right in what he did or that he should not have linked to Brent. The only arguments are that it was a non-story or that it doesn't matter, and it absolutely does matter because it's one of the most consistently corrosive and persistent and pernicious things in media where these big names take credit for what the little names do. And it's wrong, and Brent Brookhouse deserved a better defender than me in the whole thing of it. If I known what was going to happen to me, I would have done it anyway. But the fact that I was the only voice out there calling Ariel out and giving Brent the credit that he deserved for the story, everybody who didn't say something has to live with that.
So, Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Can you look at the camera when I'm talking to you, bitch?
I'm trying to do a million different things at once.
That's what he did last week, man. His Twitter feed's in the fucking ceiling somewhere up here, so...
Yeah, he's just like, oh, look, I'm checking my Facebook. I have all these friends on Facebook. I'm Mike Fagan. And I used to do This Week in Quotes. I'm checking my Facebook. I have all these friends on Facebook. I'm Mike...
All right, I'm hearing something in the background. You guys keep talking.
We got a slight delay. I think that's what's going on.
A slight delay? Here. Motherfucker, that's like a 15-second delay.
But now you and I are live, and it's like it's only in the background, like maybe...
And Mike is like, hello from the future!
We don't need him. We can handle this. Well, we got some mixed martial artists to talk about.
You know that, right?
We'll be fine.
Hasn't been the host since I came on.
You're dude. The host is the guy that's here most often. So who are we talking to here?
And here's the thing: I didn't skip out to go bowling.
I'm 64 out of 65. I was here and my fucking house almost burned down.
Yeah, but you weren't here when I had to do the fucking 50 Shades of Roth.
I wouldn't want to be here when you were doing the 50 Shades of Roth. I want to be somewhere else.
Yep.
All right. So,
Mike's here.
I'm here.
Michael, are you back?
I'm back. Let's start with you, Matt. Not Derek, Matt. Since
yeah, we look alike. I get that. Yeah, totally.
I know you were up at that World Series of Fighting show. How about you just give us a rundown of the show, what it was like being there live, and your general overall opinion of the event.
All right. So as everybody, I don't know if everybody knows or it was still kind of a secret, but So after Pitcher Report didn't renew my contract, I decided to go start my own website, and I was able to get credentialed for WSOF under the condition that I spoke with the publicist that there was going to be interview opportunities beforehand, before the fights, like a workout or a presser where I'd be able to get interviews. And yes, totally, they will be. An interview or a presser, and then there's going to be weigh-ins, and then the day of the fights, there's going to be a post-fight press conference. So, the weigh-ins were on Friday, so I assume that the other activity was going to be on Thursday. There was nothing on Thursday. The weigh-ins, they started an hour late, and while you can read about it in my story that I posted on Bloody Elbow today, there's a guest piece that I did. It's an interview I conducted with Nick Lembo. It details all the issues that WSOF had. Basically, they didn't have their fighters' pre-fight paperwork filled out, and you can't step on the scales until that's done. You cannot do that. Lembo will not let you weigh in until everything is filled out. It's including the insurance forms, medicals, just your bout agreements. Everything needs to be filled out, and it wasn't. So the weigh-ins were delayed an hour. During that time, that's when I was told by Nick Lembo what's going on with their cage and the posts and the canvas. And I turned to the person next to me, not knowing that he was the publicist for WSOF, but he had no idea. He had no idea there were any issues, and he kind of turned away. Like after we finished talking, he turned around and just like went over and talked to Ali and Ray Sefo. Basically there were so many issues going on with their cage, and as of like midnight when Brent broke the story on Bloody Elbow, there was no the new canvas was not in New Jersey. It got actually delivered at 10:30 in the morning, and then the cage got put together. Nick didn't approve the cage until about 4:30 when he got to the Revel, and then by that time you're 30 minutes before media check-in. So it was kind of one of those things where the event almost didn't happen. The card went off without a hitch. There was no issues. There was no post-fight presser. Instead, what we got was a room and a bunch of media scrums, and I'm not fighting with the fight nerd to get quotes about, hey, Anthony Johnson, how did you feel, and what's going on, and like, did you think your punches landed cleanly? And I don't give a shit about that. Like, I'm not the how's your training going kind of guy, and that's what everybody wanted to know. And it just, I left. I left after that. I went to Hooters.
Mike, are you here? Because I feel like I'm just waiting a minute until my fucking video and shit catches up. Roth's getting all pissed. Can anybody hear me?
I'm done. I'm quitting. This is terrible.
Don't be done. You can't quit like a volunteer gig. That's just leaving.
Okay, I'm leaving.
It's like a soup kitchen. You don't quit the soup kitchen. You just don't go there anymore.
Okay, I'm not going here anymore.
Oh, you should keep coming to the soup kitchen, Matt. Come on, we're figuring this out.
I have important things to do, like watch YouTube.
You do not stop lying.
There are YouTube videos to watch.
You know what I have to do? I have to write a 4-page intercultural communications paper about Gran Torino.
That sounds awesome.
It really does. I mean, I'm going to start out paragraphs like, so when he called her a dragon lady.
Oh my God, dude! Did I tell you when I watched that with my grandpa?
And I'm back in like Mr. Fagan.
Yeah, Subo, did I ever tell you when I watched Gran Torino with my grandpa?
No.
Oh, dude, he was amazing. My grandpa.
Was he there? What, is he a Korean War vet?
He's a World War II vet.
Okay.
And
they're all the same. Was he in the Pacific? Because they're all the same.
No, he was in the yeah, he was in the Pacific.
There you go.
And so he was saying, like, when he said, get me another beer, Dragon Lady, my grandpa just started laughing so much. Like, it was the funniest thing to him.
I did too, but I've never called an actual Korean or Japanese lady a Dragon Lady, whereas he probably has. So he carries another level of resonance to that elder group. But it was lucky as hell. We had this big basket of movie names to pick out of, and some people in class got, like, Bend It Like Beckham for our fucking movie review, and I get Gran Torino. And it's one of the luckiest things that's happened to me since I got back into college. Mike Fagan.
Michael, can you hear me?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. The sound just went out. The sound was on. I had to go through the options, and for some reason the device had switched from my headset. So I don't know.
I really think it's a pretty solid platform with a lot of tools, and I think it's pretty steady. But it's just the fucking hinky-dink bullshit that you have to fucking. I like this one. I think this is you like this one, Matt? You're smiling. All right, cool. Let's talk about mixed martial arts.
All right. So what did I miss with the World Series of Fighting talk?
Everything.
He was talking about how lame the presser is because Matt and I were discussing this last night. There's enough technical analysis out there. When you really want to tell the stories of the fighters and hear about their stories, post-fight presser when people are asking about how'd that right hand feel and did he leg kick you more than he thought you would, like that's not what you want to hear. So Matt was just talking about piecing out from that and yeah, basically backing up everything I said about Ariel Helwani. It was pretty rude. You missed it. Said a lot of mean things about Ariel Helwani.
I didn't officially comment about Ariel Helwani, but I will say that Brent Brookhouse and I were the only ones that had the story as far as the cage issues.
Well, aren't you well behaved?
And it was like I was tweeting about it all day and all night, and Brent was writing stories and he already got quotes from Nick Lembo. I already got quotes from Nick Lembo. So for Ariel to the day of the event, like right before it goes live, when Nick that's when Nick is the busiest. It's literally when he's the busiest right before the event goes live because he needs to make sure that all of his inspectors are there and all the judges are there and all this bullshit. He can't be checking his cell phone to check Twitter. And so that was what bothered me most. Like, look, if Derek has beef with how Ariel handled the asking for quotes from Nick, that's whatever. Look, it was the fact that it would be like calling you for an interview, Mike, when it's the day of your wedding and like you're about to walk down, like, and your wife's about to walk down the aisle like 10 minutes later. Like you just don't do that. It's just, okay, time has passed. I fucked up. I couldn't get the quote, and I'm just gonna I'll leave it to the guy who got the quotes originally.
Again, to clarify, my beef is with the fact that he did not give any credit to the reporter that originally broke the story. He said to you, even like word for word, Matt, in a tweet that he wanted to hear it from the man himself, as if Brent Brookhouse is incapable of verifying a quote or conducting an interview or recording it accurately. It was just a fucked up thing to do to a colleague, let alone a coworker. That makes it even worse. You should have given the guy some shine.
Well, and especially too, I mean, Brent over the past year has really,
Brent's coming
showing
to
his value.
He's kicking ass and taking names. Between the Lloyd Irvin scoop and this, like, no journalist goes undefeated. Nobody fucking nails everything. So it's incumbent upon you to give credit where it's due, especially when it ends up helping your site out anyway, because now there are two names that are worth reading there, whereas before maybe people only knew about one. Like, it's just a stupid, selfish, self-defeating thing to do.
The other thing I wanted to ask you, Matt, when World Series of Fighting first started and when they put on their first show, I gave them about a year. After a year, I thought they would fold. Having been there, and obviously if you are wanting to protect some context, you don't want to burn some bridges, you don't have to give me a straight answer, but what do you think their chances are of surviving long term?
I think it's really going to come down to if they took this situation and decided to make it and decided to learn from it. If they can't learn from it and they basically that they do the same thing and they do the same thing and they try and then go commission shopping for people that aren't as
to be fair, New Jersey sets a pretty high bar. That's one of the best athletic commissions, if not
no,
the best in the
country. It's not one of. It is the best. It is the pinnacle of athletic commissions. It is the absolute best. But if World Series of Fighting takes this and they say, you know what, we definitely learned a lot on when to deliver paperwork and when to do things, I think that they have a chance of surviving because they're putting on fun fights minus that Paulo Filho David Branch fight. But if they're kind of like, okay, you know what, we're just not gonna, we're not gonna go and learn from this, and it's basically going to be the same shit as before, but let's do it in Texas or Alabama, in states that don't have, great athletic commissions, then it's going to be an issue.
Derek, how about you introduce our guest?
Well, I'm not the host, Mike, but
I'm going to pass on.
We got Ian Kidd on the line. What's up?
There we go.
Hey, James, how's it going?
Long-time listener and not a first-time caller. How you doing, my friend?
Not bad, man. How you doing? With this Ariel Helwani shit, I've been following this on Twitter.
This is the truly untethered podcast because pretty soon all three of us are going to be unemployed and have fucking blogs, and that's about as untethered as it gets.
Oh man, that shit cracked me up.
Well, I'm glad you appreciated it, and I hope, like, again, nobody came to me and was like, you're way off base here, like he totally did and you missed it. It's just been all about whether or not you give a shit and whether or not, like, the title was worded right. And fuck you, if the content's good, I'll live with the rest of it.
See, that sounds like another situation that happened about a year ago, involving another certain member of the group here.
Whatever could you be referring? I mean, fuck, there's one or two possibilities here. You could just switch in the name at this point.
One of us is getting paid for it, though.
Whoa.
I have never burned bridges.
Well, not in MMA. I won't bring up your previous employment history, Mr. Roth, with your work. Yeah, look at that fucking smile. There we go.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Of course not. No, and that's goddamn. I'm not going to. Like I said, since you got into MMA, you've been pretty well behaved.
I've been extremely well behaved.
Yeah, you know what? When you first came over to Bloody Elbow, if there was one person out of the three of us that was going to burn bridges, I would have expected it to be you.
Because I'm a fucking Hellraiser and fucking Havoc maker, man.
You're a fireball.
I'm a fireball. But here's the thing. I'm pretty damn mature. I'm not. That's a lie.
For my age.
For my age.
Ian, is there anything you want to talk about, or do you just want to hang out and watch the show?
We've talked no fights, so if you got a fight, if you got an
There's
idea...
no fights to talk about.
I don't, man. I was coming in to just talk about the Ariel Helwani bullshit.
Well, God damn it. See,
I was just coming in to say fuck Ariel Helwani, basically.
Yeah. See, I came in at the beginning of the show and I said I didn't want to make this some big sad fest. I enjoyed my time at Fight Linker. I don't want to take a big shit on them, even though this is a really big change from their previous editorial policy, which is, hey, if you feel strongly about it and you want to give me some free fucking content because I'm not paying you, then go ahead, please. But, it is what it is. And like I said before, if I'd have known what was going to happen, I would have done it anyway, because I think somebody should have gotten to bat for Brookhouse. And as far as I can tell, I was the only one that actually put it down on the paper.
Yeah, I don't understand why Brookhouse doesn't get more props than he seems to. I mean, the man's out there, and it's not just this and Lloyd Irvin shit, but for the past year, he's been chasing up athletic commissions and, making calls and running shit down, and no one else, who the fuck else is doing that?
It's good old-fashioned journalism. Like I said, he committed an act of journalism this week.
I'm not even going to say that's good old-fashioned journalism. Brent is obsessive-compulsive when it comes to stories. When he's pissed about things, that man, he will fight and claw until he gets he gets justice. He's basically like, if Batman, instead of fighting crime, wrote about crime, he would be Batman.
Well, and one thing about Brent, too, since we're just going to jerk him off on the show today, one thing I really like about Brent is that he's one of those guys that if he's going to write something, he means it. He's not someone that's going to hype someone up just to get page views. He's not going to take an angle on a story just to create more interest. Like, what you see with Brent is what you get.
And that's why he'll never make the big time.
Well, he's doing pretty well for himself.
He's editing what was, previously, and is now, like, it's kind of climbing up the ranks again. Like, Bloody Elbow's been on point lately as far as front page material and a significant lack of Jonathan Snowden, which I always find attractive in my mixed martial arts sites. All right, I got a laugh. All right, cool. What's up, Roth? What are you looking at? Is there a cat on the balcony? Like, what's going on?
No, I just have ADD.
All right, cool. That's what I was wondering. Like, is it somebody throw a ball of tinfoil? Like, what's going on?
I saw a shiny thing.
It's one or the other, man. It's either a cat or something shiny.
So the other big story that's been developing this week is the situation the lingering situation up in Quebec with Nick Diaz filing a complaint against the commission for. I mean, what ends up what this situation ends up looking like is the Quebec Commission does not come out looking good no matter what the scenario ends up being.
That's true. But again, I'm having flashbacks to 4 years ago. I'm having 2009, UFC 93, Greasegate. Was 94? That's right. 93 was the Ireland card. Fucking Ian should be able to correct me there.
Scottish motherfucker.
I know. And you can do this every time. It always works.
Goddamn patties.
The Scottish. That's how you do it. Anyway, so after 94, you had Greasegate, BJ's mom going in front of the commission to bitch about it, asking for a rematch, saying they cheated. Fuck that. it didn't have anything to do with the fight. If it was 14 ounces of water that George St. Pierre was allowed to cut and knew he didn't have to, that's a hell of a gamble to make as a champion, that you can do 14 but not 15 or over. And I don't think it had anything to do with anything. So I think this will disappear. They won't get a check, which is really their ultimate goal because they want 20% of his purse. And we'll move on. And I'll be kind of surprised if I see Nick Diaz fight again.
Well, and then was that Matt?
Derek, you don't think he's coming back for another fight?
I'd be surprised. I think that, he got to the ceiling. He probably made as much money in that fight as he had in the 3 or 4 before it. And the BJ Penn fight was another similar instance of that, compared with the Strikeforce contract, the endorsements and everything. I just think he's done, and he's not going to he's not going to take what would be the next logical fight for him, which would be like a Mike Pierce or a Josh Koscheck. Because if he loses those fights, then he might be on the verge of getting cut with his paycheck. So what the hell? He's 1-2 in the UFC right now, and he's got a positive drug test.
Well, the question I want to ask you too, Derek, being our resident UFC fanboy, given the fact that it was a UFC official that was the one that told Nick about the situation, just what's your take on that?
Look,
are they complicit at all?
As a UFC fanboy, I'm never going to admit the increasingly obvious conspiracy going on between Faraz Zahabi and Lorenzo Fertitta. I'm not going to acknowledge that. I'm not even going to talk about it as a real thing, because to do so would bring down the whole credibility of the organization. I think it's nuts. I think this is another manifestation of they cut Matt Lindland so they could protect Rich Franklin nutso line of thinking with the UFC, where they protect these champions. George St. Pierre beat the piss out of Nick Diaz. He didn't need 14 ounces of water weight to do it.
Matt, your take on it?
I think it looks the shit that's going on with the commission is one thing. I think it looks really bad for the UFC to I have to look at the article. Mersh to go up and talk to the Diaz camp and say, look, decimal points don't matter up here, and he's caught on video saying that. I think I think that looks shitty for them. The whole DMCA copyright claim, that also looks really shitty. I think that it's again. I like the UFC. I work with the people from Zuffa when I was at Bleacher Report. I'm hoping that I can work with them again. With a future site. So I'm not trying to spit any fire or talk shit, but I think that the big issue for me is that if they're making these claims against people and it's just because they have the money to do it, I think that looks really shitty. Like there's no way for them to defend it.
Oh, Derek's disappointed.
Well, what does he want?
He doesn't want to spit any fire. He's like a diplomat. You are your own agent, Mr. Roth, and I can't afford an agent. This is why I am where I am, and you is where you is with them nice green trees behind you.
Well, I think, Derek, you can... Derek, you can at least...
My mom's basement, ladies and gentlemen.
You can at least agree, Derek, that it's not a good look for him, though. It's not a good look for
I don't think the commission looks good at all, and I think...
not the UFC.
Well, here's the question.
I mean, I'm not saying that they're involved in any sort of high-level conspiracy.
Well, hold on a sec. We have zero evidence that the UFC didn't inform George St. Pierre at like the exact same time. That they didn't go to both locker rooms and say, hey, 170.9 is 170. We just have the video of them going in to inform Diaz. We don't know when St. Pierre knew or when both camps were informed, whether or not they knew about the rule at all. It may have been something that the UFC just found out in a meeting with the commission where they looked at the scale and it's like, what if the guy's between 170 and 171? And the commission just says, oh, we count that as 170. And they probably went, okay. I mean, I don't know. Like, how many cards have there been in Montreal before? Title fights? Have there been? Like, what's the history there?
There's a ton, and they're all GSP.
Yeah, wasn't the Condit one in Montreal?
Was it Montreal? Well, Toronto was Shields.
Toronto was Shields, but Montreal also has the history where it looks just as bad when Bernard Hopkins fought Pascal, and they made Bernard Hopkins cut the additional weight to make 174, or was it 178? I can't remember whatever the contracted weight was. It kind of worked in Pascal's favor that they made Bernard Hopkins cut the additional weight, and so it seems like they're at least from the outside observer. Again, I don't know all the details. Just from the outside of the observer, it looks like they're playing favorites with the hometown fighter.
Well, if that's the case, then they're not. It's not really on the UFC because all we have is the UFC informing the Diaz camp the day before.
But the issue with the UFC is that they're having these videos, or the video that from that hidden camera video.
Yeah, who took that?
Where you see Mersh speaking. The issue for the UFC is that they're having it pulled from YouTube, and the way that it appears is that they're trying to hide, what actually happened behind the scenes. That's how it appears to people.
And Derek, St. Pierre's fought in Montreal 4 times. Diaz, Condit, Koscheck, and then the first fight in Montreal against Matt Serra at UFC 83.
Koscheck was the second Koscheck fight, the title fight?
Yeah, the title fight at UFC 124.
That's right. Pittsburgh Penguins going to kick your ass. Duh. I remember that shit now.
It's one of the greatest.
I love Josh Koscheck at that moment.
Yeah.
That was wonderful.
It was wonderful.
That's a way to. If you're going to talk shit and be an asshole, talk shit and be an asshole.
Our buddy Mookie on Twitter also pointing out UFC Montreal shows 83, 97, which was Anderson and Talis Latis, 113, which was Shogun and Machida, and then the 3 GSP fights, these last 3.
Okay.
The other issue,
I'd like to hear from those other guys if they knew, if Shogun and Machida and if Koscheck, if those guys knew about the 170.9 thing, or if this is just coming out now, because if none of GSP's opponents knew before, it's almost an advantage for Diaz.
Well, I thought that.
From what I saw, it was in force in November as well. They had a card there in November, and during the weigh-ins, none of the decimals were announced then either. But every time before that, including the Hopkins fight, as you said, the decimals were announced. But the last event they had there in November, there was no decimals announced then.
Oh, okay. So is it a UFC stipulation that for title fights you don't get that pound, or is it the athletic commissions in America? Because if it's the ACC,
it's the ABC.
Canada's not a fucking part of that,
yes,
so they do what they do.
Yes, they are.
The American Boxing Commission?
Yeah, it covers North America there.
Oh, okay. So Canada, and each province has their own thing. So Quebec would be different than Toronto, Montreal.
Yeah, each province has their own athletic commission.
Okay.
Yeah, you mean, yeah.
But I wonder if the other ones announce decimal points, if that's a Canada-wide thing, or if it's just Quebec.
Well, then we'd have to check Mike, can you check the Wikipedia for the GSP Shields fight?
What do you want me to check about it?
To see what the announced weights were?
Does
Do they
Wikipedia
normally
have
announce
weights?
I don't think they normally announce decimals at any of them. Like, it's normally just 170 or 171.
No,
No.
some commissions do. I've definitely seen commissions. Some even
Like
go like quarter
Pennsylvania,
pounds,
or
and half
who?
pounds.
I'm trying to remember right now off the top of my head. I haven't watched a lot of weigh-ins lately, but
I know for a fact that, again, I'm a homer for my state.
I know you love New Jersey, man. But hey, they're quality commission.
But New Jersey, they announced the decimals.
It looks like, according to MMA Fighting, I looked up their weigh-in results for 129. It looks like they used decimal points, although it looks like they only did half pounds. So, GSP weighed in at 169.5, Couture weighed in at 203.5, Machida 204.5, etc.
Did Shields come in at 170? Nobody came in at 170 and a half, or
Shields came at 169.
Okay.
Matt Yushchenko came at 205.5. Ben Henderson came in at 156.5, and then had to come down to 156 that night.
oh,
He was the
okay.
only one that was over originally, it looks like.
Well, I wonder if you go in 156.2, if that's counted over, or if they truncate it. See, we're getting into math and shit now.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. And obviously, ultimately, it's the Quebec Commission that looks the most at fault.
That's
and
what
the
I'm
most
saying.
Ridiculous.
That's right.
But I do think the fact that it was a UFC official telling Nick, and then that the UFC followed up and is trying to remove videos from YouTube, even if they're not complicit in it, like Matt said, it's just not a good look for them.
No, it's not. And, of course, it isn't. I don't know why they're trying to cover up the video as opposed to just saying, yeah, that's what Quebec told us. You can ask them about it. Because we don't set the fucking weights, they do.
Yeah.
To me, it was just a bad look.
Yeah.
It's just a stupid non-story. And the only reason that it's being talked about as much as it is because now the Diaz fans have something to bitch about now that they got they watched their hero get absolutely decision 5-0. That hasn't happened to Diaz in a long, long, long time.
Here's the thing, though, and I'm I get pissed about when people say like, oh, it's a non-story. This is a non-story. It's a non-story. It's only a non-story if there's no result. Like if the result doesn't end up being the one that you want. So like when Brent reported that the WSOF was in jeopardy of being canceled, that was a story because yes, it was very much so was in jeopardy to be canceled. The fact that it wasn't doesn't negate what he wrote.
Well, the reason this is a story is because Diaz's camp is filing an official complaint with the commission, and something may result of that. That's what makes it a story. If they weren't doing that, then it'd just be them crying about it. But I think the ultimate outcome will be no fine, no overturning, no rematch, nothing of that nature.
I think it's a story regardless, just in the sense that if this is true, if the Montreal Commission or the Quebec Commission is actually operating under its own rules, why are they different than other commissions? Why do they allow the extra almost full pound in a title fight? And by their own laws, apparently, fighters need to make weight the first time, but they were giving GSP and Diaz an extra hour. I mean, why is that rule different than other commissions?
But they're not even following their own rules. They're making it. They're following their rules. They're following their rules when it works out for them.
Right. The big story is that it's unwritten, and any unwritten rule from an athletic commission is going to raise a bunch of eyebrows and a bunch of questions for a very good reason, and it should be written down. And in this case, it may end this, whatever informal, unofficial rule that they have in order to smooth the transition for title fights or whatever it is. So it's good that it's being brought out to light, and I think something will come of it, just not vis-a-vis the outcome of the match.
Well, and what I was trying to get at too is that it's not a story because of the Diaz angle on it. I don't think.
Well, without the complaint, I don't think it's a story. I think the fact that they made it official and they filed it and said, we're going to have a hearing about this. Now we have something to follow up on, and there's a chance of a reconciliation.
Well, I still think it's a story for the stuff I previously mentioned. I just think I agree with you in what you're saying that the people that are backing Nick Diaz who are trying to get another title fight out of it or trying to get the result overturned or purse money handed over, that stuff is superfluous and is not going to go anywhere. But it's the actual commission part of it that I think is the most interesting part, just because it's either laws off the books that we don't know about, or it's also rules that aren't that are unique to their commission that we haven't really seen anywhere else, and I think that's the interesting part about it.
Right, and that deserves to be followed up on.
Yeah. We've got one more topic on here, Matt.
Not a lot of stuff this week, guys.
No, Matt, this is something related back to your trip to New Jersey. You had a chance to sit down with Nick Lembo and speak about the late Jeff Blatnick. If you want to just kind of touch on that, touch on the story, what got you thinking about it and all that stuff.
Okay, so when I was running for Bloody Elbow like 2 years ago, I guess 2010, it's like maybe 2011. Man, years are starting to run together for me. I'm gonna be honest. I met Nick Lembo for the first time, and he made the offer that whenever I'm home next, if I wanted to shadow, to be a shadow judge for a big event, I could totally do it and write about it. So I shadowed at Bellator. I believe it was 59, which was the Eric Prindle, Thiago Santos fight where Prindle got just soccer kicked to shit in his balls.
Wasn't Prindle the one that threw the soccer kick, or was
no? That was Santos was the guy that threw the soccer kick. But during that time, I got to shadow and I got to sit with like Ricardo Almeida and Cardo Urso and a bunch of other judges. But one of the guys that I got to sit next to was Jeff Blatnick, and I got to talk to him about 10-8 rounds and things like that. And then last year, I guess most people know Jeff Blatnick passed away, and I consider Nick Lembo a friend of mine. So, and I knew that it was one of those things where it's been tough for him to come to terms with, and even tougher for him to talk about. But he agreed to talk about it with me, and I wrote a story that I hope did Nick justice and Jeff Blatnick justice on my site that I put up prettyhatemachines.net. And I'm trying to do things that are not the hey, how's your training going, that kind of bullshit. I'd rather tell the story that that people may not know about. And I think that I'm hoping that I did justice by Nick Lembo and Jeff Blatnick.
Now, is there one story or anecdote that Nick told you about Jeff that kind of touched you most or struck the most with you?
Yeah, the one that really was great was that he told me that about the time when he recommended Jeff to judge at a Western Pennsylvania event, and Jeff is an Olympic gold medalist. He won the gold medal in Greco-Roman at the '84 Los Angeles Games, first American ever to win a Greco gold medal, and so he's very he was very well known in wrestling circles, and he told me that that when he was out there, everybody wanted his autograph. Like everybody wanted to meet and hang out with Jeff Blatnick because he's a legend in wrestling. The one that really stuck out was just the facial expressions and things when Nick's talking about his friend, like stuff that didn't make the story, just things that I couldn't actually record because it's his face. You can tell that he really doesn't like talking about it, and I'm honored that he was able to talk about it with me.
Yeah. And the site is prettyhatemachines.com. Is that correct? .net. .net.
Didn't have that Anderson Silva money to buy the .net.
Yo, you got to get on that GoDaddy, yo.
So, Matt, the past couple of weeks you've been gone, I've introduced a new little segment to the show. It's called MMA Would You Rather, and I present a dilemma that I want you and Derek to discuss. And this week's one's a little more tame than the last 2 weeks, but it goes like this.
How about this one, Michael? I'm gonna present one to you too.
All right.
After this.
All right, I'm gonna go first, and then we'll go with you. Which MMA super fight would you have rather seen? Fedor versus Randy Couture, or Fedor versus Brock Lesnar?
Ooh.
At the peak of that interest of each fight.
I will say that I would rather have seen Fedor versus Randy Couture. I think it would have been more competitive. The Brock Lesnar one would have been the bigger pay-per-view buy, but I think the Couture fight would have been more competitive.
You think Couture would have been more competitive with Fedor?
Yeah,
than Brock?
I think that he was stronger in the clinch, and I think that Brock Lesnar had issues with getting hit, and Fedor Emelianenko hits like a goddamn truck.
Derek?
I think Brock Lesnar would have smoked Fedor Emelianenko. When the peak of that interest of that fight was happening, it was pre-diverticulitis for Brock, so he was at the peak of his powers. He just beat the shit out of Frank Mir. And yeah, I think that he had 50 pounds on him. He's 4 inches taller. He's a much better wrestler. I think that Brock would have won that fight, and that's the one I wanted to see. They would have been in Cowboy Stadium. They would have sold 70,000 seats to that thing. It would have been the biggest MMA fight in history.
Well, how do you think Couture Fedor would have gone if they had fought?
I think Fedor would have beat him. I think that Couture it would have been one of the rare fights in which Fedor had an actual size advantage, which he was not used to having as a heavyweight. Randy was 42, 43 by that time. We saw what happened when Randy fought Brock, and that was at the peak of the interest for the Fedor fight, and Randy looked like he didn't even belong at heavyweight at that point, and he'd fought most of the rest of his career at light heavyweight as a result. So, yeah, I think that not only would Brock Fedor be the better fight, I think that Brock wins it and it would have been bigger.
For me, I always wanted to see Randy and Fedor fight, if only because of there was a lot of argument that if Randy and Fedor had fought in a cage, that Randy would have had some sort of mysterious advantage that would have given him an edge on the fight, and I just don't see it. And we saw Fedor fight in a cage, and obviously his record didn't prove that good for him, but I think that Fedor's size and speed on Randy just would have presented a whole lot of issues, and I think when you combine the pay-per-view aspect of it into it, Fedor and Lesnar would have been just an absolute. But I think it would have been the #1 pay-per-view buy of all time at MMA, and
1.6 million is a big number, but he could have touched that.
But you get that UFC hype machine behind it. You get Lesnar involved, and then you get this. People always gave Fedor shit for not being a draw, but I mean, I knew tons of people who weren't MMA fans who knew who Fedor was.
It was just like 100 was like a Brock Lesnar card plus a GSP card. It was like the million people that are going to watch a Brock Lesnar fight plus the 3 out of 4 Canadian fans that you're not going to normally get for a UFC pay-per-view because George St. Pierre is on it. So that rare, like, I don't know if Fedor, like, what did he do as a pay-per-view star? He averaged 90,000 buys a pop for Affliction.
All right, now the question for you guys. MMA, would you rather? I'm including Ian in this one, okay? Would you rather have sex with Chris Cyborg or Fallon Fox, or Fox Fallon, whatever her name is?
Cyborg, easy.
Really?
Easy. Oh yeah.
Easy.
Not even a thought.
Easy.
Yeah, Cyborg probably likes it pretty rough, man. I'd be down. I could
Cyborg, man.
That's a tough one, and if you want to become a conspiracy theorist, Chris Cyborg's the only person that in MMA and female MMA that came out in support of Fallon Fox.
Since we're being incredibly sexist, let's ask a better question. Who would you rather, Fallon Fox or Kim Winslow?
Ooh.
I got some sideways glances on that one. They're not sure.
No, it'd be Kim Winslow.
I mean, I think I have to.
That shit says Mad Dusty.
It just reminds me of that girl from the 40-Year-Old Virgin, man. Like, she'll haunt your dreams. You're never going to forget that if it happens.
Kim Winslow's my girl. I don't know how I can. How could I turn her down?
I was rewatching one of the Strikeforce cards that Fedor lost on the other day. Those are the only 3 Strikeforce cards I have, the 3 that Fedor lost on.
No, I wasn't here for last week when you guys, I believe it was last week that you guys talked about the next tough with men and women.
Yeah. What's the over-under on abortions coming out of this house, Matt?
Yeah, how many pregnancies?
That's what I'm saying. That was my question.
There has to be.
Okay, here's my question for you, Matt. And Mike fucking biffed this one really badly. 8 female fighters. How many bisexuals? How many lesbians?
How about this? 8 female fighters, 8 periods. 8 PMSing women in the house. You know how fucking terrible it's going to be for all the men?
I see like a threesome happening, and then the participants having to fight each other in the coming weeks. A lot of crying.
It should be called Tough 18 Bow-Legged.
Are any of these girls going to have boyfriends before they get there? Or are any of these guys going to have girlfriends? No, but seriously, out of the female population, if you take 8 girls, odds are at least one of them's a lesbian, and then you add the bisexual element into it, there's going to be some fun drinking parties going on in that house. All booze, no TV, no magazines, no fucking iPods. What else are they going to do?
Just bone. Especially with all the fucking booze that's gonna be in that house.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and they're all just, coming off a hard day of training, get a bottle of booze in them, talk about like practice moves and shit. It's inevitable.
And Erica, the producer, saying that, who's also obviously a woman, lots of yelling, lots of crying.
Tampons in the pool, man. It's not gonna be cool. It's gonna be a whole new season of tough.
What if they have like a really clean house though?
What if they don't?
Dude, have you ever lived with a woman?
I am right now.
Have you ever lived with 8 fighters? They are pretty nasty.
You have. It sounds like you have some stories there, Matt.
I'm just saying, women are fucking gross.
Anything in particular that they're gross about?
Cooties.
Dude, don't touch a girl's butt. That's where cooties come from.
Erica also adding in, it's true, we are.
Yeah,
you're fucking gross, Erica, and I'm not
disgusting.
even saying you. I'm saying every single female is fucking gross. And I'm not being sexist. I'm talking the fucking truth. Fucking horrific.
Well, what the hell should we end on, guys? We got about 4 minutes left until the top of the hour.
We can end on this. This was great.
The disgustingness of women. That's what we're going to close the show on.
We're going to stretch out 4 more minutes of tough talk?
Yeah, let's talk about tough.
That's awful. Come on, something else had to have happened this week.
There's nothing. Literally.
Other than me getting fired? Like, come on.
I've got something that's happened.
What?
What's up?
Dana deciding to put on YouTube him doing 125 miles an hour on a bike on a public road.
Ooh.
That was fucking smart. Did you guys see that?
I didn't see it, but I heard about it.
Is this on his vlog, or where is this?
This is the vlog. he decided to show him and another guy doing 125 on a bike on a public road.
I'm surprised this isn't on the front page of Bloody Elbow. Kid Nate fucking talking about blackjack and how worried he is about the future of the sport.
Now I have a question. Is that kilometers an hour or miles an hour?
Miles.
Whoa, that's crazy. Kilometers an hour, I wasn't really that impressed.
That's a shitload of kilometers. It's like 200 kilometers.
That's so many kilometers.
I will say this. You bastards need to support your local MMA. This is what I'm doing on Saturday night. Sparta.
Wait, you're going to go see Sparta?
Denver, Colorado.
Spoiler
A Josh Huber fight.
In
Justin
the
Gahey is a training partner of his. He just won at the World Series of
poker?
Say what? What'd you say?
I said
You
he
cut
just
out
won
like
the
a
World Series
bastard
of
there. I
poker.
didn't hear a word of that.
Well,
I did that on
here's the
fucking...
thing,
Yeah.
All right, last thing we'll talk about. It was just announced a couple matchups for UFC 162. Frankie Edgar is going to be fighting Charles Oliveira, and Dennis Seaver will be fighting Cub Swanson. Thoughts?
Great. Awesome.
Both good fights. You know, good to see 145 having fights that, like, 5 through 10 that you give a shit about. Swanson versus Seaver should be really fun, and Frankie Edgar is going to finally win a fight, so good for him.
Well, who the fuck does Cub Swanson have to beat to get a goddamn title shot?
Dude, everybody. Do you remember what happened the last time he fought Cub Swanson or Jose Aldo? He has to fight the world before they let that happen.
Well, the interesting question is, why didn't they have Frankie fight Cub?
Because winner would get a title shot, and they don't want Cub Swanson to fight Jose Aldo again.
Well, because all the UFC regulars that don't watch the WC remember that fight?
Because they have to show the highlight, and they're just like, let's see what happens this time. How do you sell that?
You just ignore it like they've done with other fights.
Can't ignore it because it's...
They ignored Nate Marquardt's last fight when he was fighting.
But it's Aldo Swanson 2. You can't have the 2 on the fucking fight poster and be like, oh, the first one never happened. We're not going to talk about
You could
that.
just not
That's
put
a long
the 2
time
on
ago.
there.
What?
Here's the marketing.
Can't do it.
Here's the marketing. Cub Swanson was a different fighter.
Yeah, he got double kneed in the face as soon as he fucking walked out there. Bat, bat.
All right, that's kind of bad when you put
You
it
can't
that
do
way.
it. There's no way to sell that fight.
When you put it that way, Derek.
Cub Swanson has to hope that Jose Aldo gets hit by a truck, and then maybe he can be UFC champion. Until then, it's not going to happen.
Well, does anybody beat Jose Aldo?
At 145?
No.
Well, Frankie Edgar might on a good night. He almost did.
Does
Kinda.
Anthony Pettis beat Jose Aldo?
No.
I've underrated Anthony Pettis for a long time, so it's hard for me to say no, but I don't know. I mean, everyone that I talk to says he's the best striker in MMA. Like, the people that I know that actually do striking and fucking teach it, they're like, he's the best.
Thing is, I would take Henderson.
Apparently.
I would take Ben Henderson over Jose, and Pettis squeaked out Henderson. I mean,
But
it's
that's
not quite the same. It's not quite the same
Right.
dynamic. but
I think both Henderson and Pettis have gotten so much better since that fight. They've both improved in a lot of different ways, and Henderson's a totally different fighter. I thought he was going to lose to Bocek when he got in the UFC, and I was wrong about that shit.
All right, that music means we're out of here. Matt,
I'm
give me your final thoughts.
Bye.
Derek?
I'm breaking up with you. Bye.
I got fired again, so in case you didn't know me before. How you doing?
Wop 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 wop.
See
wop,
you
wop,
next
wop,
week.
So I guess just pout.
Wop 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 wop. This is Halloween. This is Halloween. 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 Us